Welcome to our international podcast, Below the Belt. I bet that you're surprised to hear this voice. My name is Amanzo Walton Desir, and I'm guest hosting today on behalf of Mr. Sherrod Duncan. We're letting Sherrod get some rest today. This morning, Joretta Fernandez and we were on an FYI, and here I am today at the midday hour hosting Below the Belt. It is an absolute joy for me to be here this afternoon, standing in for Sherrod Duncan. Like I said, we're allowing Sherrod to rest. I want to say good afternoon to all of you who are tuned in. I see Keto Beresford, I see Shondell Moses, I see Selena Fraser, I see Patricia Kissoon, I see our Will Dawn Cook, and it is my absolute pleasure to be here. There's a lot going on right now, and we're going to get into it. I'll be joined later on in the podcast by none other than the Honorable Chief Whip of the Opposition, Mr. Christopher Jones. We started a bit late today because, we were waiting for the press conference that was being held by the leader of the PNCR, Mr. Aubrey Norton. He had his usual Friday press conference. And so we were tuned in, locked to what he had to say in terms of keeping this government accountable. So we're going to get started. Share the live stream. Share the live stream. Aliyah, I see Aliyah Walren asking, where is Sherrod? And we're letting Sherrod rest today. He works hard to produce three shows every day, morning, noon, and night, literally. And so, we're standing in so that our brother can get some rest. And so, you know, I am seeing, hey, Jaretta. Jaretta says, hey, Amanda, I'm here in the comments. I thought you were supposed to be examining the estimates in the house, Madam MP. But I'm so happy to have you guys. I see Donna Liverpool and Tony Hack and Gary Greenidge. I see Giselle Franklin and Roxanne Odessa Jacobs. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hey, Shondell Moses, it's good to see you. And Myrtle Noble. Don't forget to share the live stream, guys, so that we can share all of this good information. Tell me, what's the weather like on your end? It's nice and warm and toasty in Guyana. We get our information from weather.com, and weather.com is saying that it is 29 degrees in Guyana. It feels like 33, but it's 29. And they're saying that there's a 3% chance of rain. So, what is the weather like on your end? I know I was speaking with some relatives in North America, and they were saying to me, oh my God, where I am, it's -2. Commiserations, but we are here enjoying the sunshine, drinking we water, trying to mind my own business, but that's not going so well because there's just so much happening for us to talk about and for us to discuss. And one of the things that we're going to be asking in the podcast later on is, who the hell is Sue? This is what everybody wants to know. Inquiring minds want to know, who is Sue? And so I'm going to be joined by Chief Whip Christopher Jones as we attempt to unpack, to use the words of my colleague Randolph Critchlow, as we attempt to unpack that very interesting interview by Vice. And so I want to say a shout out to Miss Chelsea Edgel. I learned that she was involved in an accident yesterday, last evening, and I've learned that she's doing okay. She is well, and we wish her nothing but a speedy recovery. My brothers and sisters, it's important that we take our time when using the roads. We've been having too many accidents. We just lost two very promising young people to a road accident, and so once again we send our love and our prayers out to the families of the two young people, one of whom was a very promising young woman that was a youth parliamentarian in the last youth parliament. Our thoughts and prayers are with their families. Let's take our time on the roads, guys. Let's take our time on the roads. Remember, our main aim is to arrive alive. We want to get there safely, and we want to be able to go, to be able to see our families. And so we are wishing the best to Miss Chelsea Edgel. We're also learning from Guyana Daily News that Mr. Christoph Shepard, the national volleyball player rather, they're among three persons that were injured in an accident that occurred in Mandela Avenue last evening. So our thoughts and prayers are with the two young people, and we say, take your time on the roads, guys. When we were in school growing up, they would say road safety is everybody's business, and road safety is indeed all of our all of your business. So let me drink water, my business. One of which is road safety. So guys, don't forget to share the live stream. There's a lot happening today, and we're going to be unpacking, as I said, that interview with the vice president. Hard knocking interview. Vice really came for him. I really admire the journalism that we saw on display, and I'm hopeful that our journalists in Guyana would endeavor to rise to that level of journalism. I do not believe that it is beneath their competence, but I do recognize that in a society as polarized as ours, where there's a government that is not above using fear and intimidation to silence the media. I understand that it could be challenging, but as the media, you do have a duty to bring the information to the people without fear or favor, affection or ill will. And so I really would want to see our journalists emulate that level of journalism. I like how, she buttered him up and allowed him to speak about his vision. There are certain things that he says that you can't argue with in terms of climate issues and so forth. But, she allowed him to cement himself, and then moved in for the kill, so to speak. And so, I really enjoyed that interview. And a lot was said. It was a wide ranging interview, but the entire Guyana has come away from that wanting to know one thing: who the hell is Sue? And so we're going to be hearing a bit of that interview a bit later in the podcast. We're going to bring that to you live so that you could hear what it is that we are hearing. Well, it's noon. What are you having for lunch? I want to see. Tell me in the comments what's for lunch. Um, we know things tight, you know, but let's know what you know, we're having for lunch. And I just want you to be aware, Deborah, that Sharon is not unwell, but he's a human being and he needs to rest sometimes. So he is well. Um, he's doing well. His family is doing well, but we're just giving his voice a day of rest today. Oh my God, I see Harriet Hall is eating beef curry with rice. I see is eating Charlene is eating curry chicken and roti. Oh my God, Loretta Peters Nicholson is having curry fish. Well, I think this is a conspiracy because I'll let you know that curry is my favorite dish. I would eat curry everything any day. So I could eat curry pumpkin Monday, curry bora Tuesday. I am a curry fanatic since I've been small. I see Miss Inderjeet is joining us from Skeldon. That is on the quarantine. Fun fact, I was born in the quarantine, so I that part of the country is always close to my heart. I see oh, chocolate chip is having black eye stew. Lovely. It's up to you, Brian. Is having stew chicken because green's there. Yeah, we know things tight, but this is where you need to consider growing your own vegetables. As a country girl, you may live in the city and there may not be enough land space, but what I do is that I try to grow them in pots, so you have all of your vegetables grown in your yard that can supply you and your family. So don't forget to share the live stream. We're gonna have with us Mr. Christopher Jones in a few minutes. We have been, folks, looking at the budget debates for the last week and a half, and we are currently in the process of reviewing the estimates line by line. It's tedious work. They're about a few thousand pages to go through, but this is the level of scrutiny that we have to bring in order to be sure that the monies that are being allocated to these agencies are being properly allocated. And I want to encourage Guyanese from all walks to tune in to listen to that debate. I see Garden, your name calling here by Fitzroy Punch said that you have the ability to do what that journalist has done. So he's reposing that confidence that you can step up and be that vice journalist. Norma, I see you miss Sherrod voice. I see you miss Sherrod's voice, but you gotta put up with me today. Can we give Sherrod a little rest? So, put up with me today. I see Pearl Prowell says she's eating salt, fish, and dal and rice. Wow. Oh, Deborah Clark. Deborah Clark is a little bougie. Deborah Clark is having stewed turkey and peas. Okay, Deborah Clark, I see you. You know, enjoy your stewed turkey and peas. I see Myrtle is having stew beef and mashed potatoes. Ah, I see Gary Grinish is having sushi. Okay, Gary. All right. Alison Pearson, thank you. Thank you. She says, I love you too, Amanda. Thank you. Garden, you need to be on this live, my brother. Your name calling. Somebody say if you try this, you're gonna get knocked off from your hits and jams gig. So, guys, don't forget to share the live stream. We are going to be joined by Christopher Jones a little later on, our chief whip. And like I said, we're discussing the budget in the National Assembly. And for those of you who are following, and thank you so much for those of you who follow, you are. Thank you, Aliyah. I must stop to say, Aliyah says that I have a radio voice. Wow. So this is actually fun fact. This is actually my first time hosting a podcast or any program of this sort. So shout out to Sherrod for reposing this trust and confidence in me. Um, this is special. This is special for me. So I'll be looking out for y'all to tell me, how I did. If it was pace and power, or we got to get Sherrod back ASAP. But I wanted to bring out some of the key aspects that we've been looking at with the budget. The government continues to say, oh, it's the largest budget ever. But what we have seen, and I think what all of the opposition MPs have shown consistently, is that there really is not anything there for the poor and the working class Guyanese. And so I encourage all of us to listen to the budget debates. As this is we country, we got to run this thing. And so if we are not informed, then how do we make informed decisions? And so the budget presentations have so much information for you as Guyanese to understand where your money is going, how it's being spent, and what it is that we believe are some of the better plans in terms of how we can put our budget and our resources to better use so that the Guyanese people can benefit. So I want to encourage you to tune in to the Parliament page. They're there live, and you will come upon a wealth of information. Informed citizens make informed choices, and so this is our life, and this is our Guyana, and we have to build it. We're gonna be delving into that Vice interview in a few minutes. As soon as I'm joined by Mr. Christopher Jones, we're gonna try to get Christopher on the call because we want to get his thoughts. Christopher has some unique perspectives, and it's always so important to get as many perspectives as we can get. We call Christopher the voice. He's known as our voice in the opposition because, of course, he has that beautiful, radio voice, and so it's always a pleasure sitting and hearing him speak. So we're gonna try to get Christopher. Christopher, if you hear me, I'm going to be calling you now. We are going to be joined by Mr. Christopher Jones, and we're going to get his thoughts. We want to say good afternoon in the meantime to Anna Phillips and to John Halley and to Gladys Passad and Andrew Caleb. We want to say good afternoon to Nicola Marks. Nicola says, Amanda, I'm so proud of you. Thank you, Nicola. God knows, I'm a bit nervous. You might not hear it in my voice, but, we're going to hold a focus. We're going to hold a focus. Chris, are you there?
Yes, I am, Lady Manzo. Good afternoon, and
Good
good afternoon to your
afternoon,
listeners.
Christopher. Christopher Jones. I'm glad that you've joined us. I was just saying this is my first time hosting a podcast or a radio show or any such thing. So, you know,
Mhm.
we called you on here
You-
today because we wanted to talk about, Jagdeo's Vice Media interview. The whole of Guyana is asking who the hell is Sue? They got a soca name. Who the hell is Kim?
Correct,
Guyanese want to
correct.
know who the hell is Sue. Who is Sue, Chris? You know?
Based on what I heard Vice President said, that's Vice President Jagdeo,
Mm-hmm.
that he knows Sue, that Sue and him are friends, that Sue is a tenant
Uh-huh.
renting some property I assume that he owns.
Mm-hmm.
So Vice President knows Sue. And based
Ah.
on the information from the reporter, that the reporter was seeking Jagdeo's confirmation, Sue had some damning revelations in terms of he sees himself, that is Sue, as some sort of a middleman. He identifies the business people or whatnot, local and external to Guyana, and he then brings that information to Jagdeo, and those persons will have to somewhat compensate him for his work and efforts. So
Ah.
Sue is no stranger to Jagdeo, as Jagdeo clearly says that he knows the man.
So we've established a couple of things. One, that Jack, do you
Mm-hmm,
know who the hell Sue is? We know
mm-hmm,
that he is his tenant. Which property we're not sure because the vice president is reputed to have properties all over the world, so we're not sure which one. Um,
mm-hmm,
but for those of you who are now joining us, we're discussing the Jagdeo Vice Media Group, Vice News, the interview. One of their reporters sat down with him for a wide ranging interview. They spoke about a number of issues, including Guyana's oil and gas economy. He said some things there about the economics that we are going to unpack later because, a couple of things he was not, he didn't represent the entire truth on. And of course, he engage in his revisionist history. But that's not the part we're going to focus on. We got some days to unpack it. It was an hour and a half long interview. And
mm-hmm,
the part we want to focus on, because everybody can ask, and who the hell is Sue? So we know a couple of things. Jagdeo has said that Sue is his friend. He said that Sue is his tenant. And Sue has now indicated that he played a particular role in terms of the business dealings of companies coming into Guyana. We're going to play a part of that interview for those of you who might not have heard it. I don't know if the technical guys have it lined up. If they do, we're going to go into that now, and then we're going to rejoin you at the end of that excerpt. We're loading, guys.
yeah.
You see, they're not used to me. They're used to Sherrod and all of the, Sherrod knows the tech language and so on and so forth. So we're gonna take the excerpt of that interview where it says, where they discuss Mr. Sue, and then Chris, you and I are gonna come back at the end of that for our commentary on the issue.
Sure, sure.
issues. That's why I started off by saying there are real issues. We have sought to strengthen the systems. So, a proper procurement law, a integrity commission law, all of our financial laws updated, strong penalties for public expenditure and not utilizing public expenditures for their dedicated purposes, etc. We try to fix the system. Whether individuals would continue to be corrupt, I can't put my head on the block. You would have that. But the system has moved forward. But when the system failed, we had systemic failures in the last government because the institution that we put in place, they never complied with it. The Constitution, first of all, for no confidence motion, was not complied with. Secondly, the Integrity Commission law was not complied with. And I'm surprised only in 2021 that's going to be mentioned when it happened in 2016 to 2018, when we were in opposition every year shouting about this at the top of our voices.
What about within your government?
Yes.
Do you accept bribes?
No, I don't.
We've spoken to a number of Chinese business people in Guyana who said that you do accept bribes, and they said that in fact it's the only way to get business done is to bribe you. One Chinese businessman we spoke to involving timber logging told us that basically as long as the vice president is okay with it, it's fine. He just needs to give one phone call to whoever is in charge. They'll get it done right away. The real big boss is the vice president. Everything that's under the table, the whole country is like this.
Yeah, well, I can't comment on that because it would be an anonymous person. You can just sit there and fabricate that. As I said before, a lot of the companies and reporters. Well, no, but you can if you name the person, that's fine. I can when the reporters come from abroad, this is their catch you kind of thing. You always want to make a developing country leader look corrupt. So you've done your bit. Unless you say who the person is, I can't comment on anonymous people. I can say, as two persons told me before this interview, don't do the interview with Vice News because that is precisely what they will do. They will fabricate something and come and say they spoke with people here.
Well, we're not fabricating.
Yes,
anything,
but is there?
Let's talk about
Let me tell you something. So all my statements are in with the Integrity Commission. The last government, they checked everything about me and they didn't find anything. They checked my bank accounts abroad. They checked everything. They didn't find anything. So there has to be the evidence of it. But you're not bringing evidence. You're saying an anonymous Chinese source.
Okay, well,
maybe the Chinese company that did not get the agreement that they wanted here, maybe they're the ones who told you. Or it could be just a fictitious thing.
Okay, well, let's talk about specific individuals. What is your relationship with Mr. Su Jerome?
Su. My relationship? Nothing. He's a tenant in my place, yeah.
And he's a good friend of yours?
Yes, yes. He is a friend of ours. His father was here from many years ago.
I mean, he lives next door to you.
Yes.
He was able to arrange meetings and catch-ups with you at any point in the day.
As a friend, yeah.
He claims that through his very close relationship with you, that he's able to get any deal done.
Well, I don't know
and
if that's
able to change laws for investors.
But then which law has been changed for any investor?
So Sue told us that if you want to get anything done in Guyana, you need some hookups. I'm very close to the vice president and the other officials. The vice president and I share a very close relationship. Also, if we do the business, he'll help out no matter what. There's no one else who can help like he does. He also says when he's talking about prospect investors that the vice president said he can change the constitution. He said he can manage. Everything is going to be done soon. He's really treating us as brothers. He's already trying to help us as much as possible. Of course, I need to give back to him in return.
Yeah, but that is, I don't know about giving back, but I do that to everybody who comes to my office. The American companies come here to see me and they need a meeting. You asked to see me. I have an open door policy since I was president. So people come to see me. But I've had a long history of being in public office and we never had any of this stuff that you talk. And all my accounts are clear. If you are coming here with specifics. So I just heard what you read. And that's totally accurate. I help out as many people as I can. That's totally accurate what you read there. Unbelievably accurate. It's accurate. So I help people out, but it doesn't mean for consideration. It does not mean for bribe, because I believe that we have a mission to help as many people as possible move forward in this country.
Well, Sue also told us that, I mean, the amount will divide between the vice president. It's going to be
Oh.
a service or process.
Oh, really?
If we're going to do business together, my boss is not going to directly receive the money, but obviously it's not going to directly transfer to him. The service charge is 4% of the total. It's not only me, most of it's the vice president.
Mm.
Do you use middlemen like Sue in order to take money on your behalf so that you can keep your hands clean?
No. The answer is no.
Why do you think that Sue would say this?
I don't know. You have to ask him.
I mean, he's saying it because he, as he understands it, that's the truth.
Well, no, but as he understands it, so that's what you have to ask him. But the answer is no.
So why do you think he's saying this to us?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know why. You ask him about that.
So, Chris, I want to bring you in here. Very, very interesting interview. I had the opportunity to, you know, look at the tape and look at body language, because that is always very, very important. What are your thoughts, Chris? I mean, I surmise that Sue is no longer a tenant.
Yeah, but I would assume the same as well. For the benefit of your listeners, Amanza, indeed, if they had the opportunity to view the video and you grasp from his body language,
Mhm.
because if you listen to that insert that you played, all throughout, Jagdeo was literally rattling on. And when the name was thrown out, tell us about Sue, he started to stutter, backpedal, Sue. So so that tells the story as well too. But in
Absolutely.
there, it's some damning allegations, if I can call it that much now, that the reporter has reported on. And then knowing international media, they don't say unless they have sufficient evidence. Because remember now, this is a former president. This is currently the vice president of a nation. So these international journalists don't just come and throw around words. It is based on factual evidence that they have. And based on that, they start the interrogation process. And that is essentially what we saw there. It's the interrogation process based on hard facts, evidence that these reporters apparently have.
And I'm glad you made that point, because this is not fly by night journalism. The reporter clearly had her facts. She clearly had a wider understanding of the issues, and they clearly corroborated Sue's comments. And so she was confident enough to put that to him. I mean, I have not seen him so uncomfortable in an interview in
Mm,
a very, very long time. And,
yeah,
it was almost like the name Sue sucker punched him. It knocked the wind completely out of him. And so it really is disturbing. But, Chris, this is the waking reality of Guyanese.
yeah,
The truth is that the report is not saying anything that we don't know on the ground here in Guyana.
exactly,
You know, we,
exactly.
we know that
And
this
and
is the way that they do business.
correct. And Manzo, quite often when I'm on program, any interview, I often take people back to the PPP that we know, right? The PPP that my entire political hostings, I've come to know them. Now, I'll take you back to Roger Shahid Khan. It was a very similar thing. Roger Khan used to enter and exit the office of the president. Roger Khan had limitless access to then PPP ministers of government. It was the very former minister of health, Dr. Leslie Ramsamy, of which his letterhead was used to purchase a sophisticated spy equipment that was then subsequently intercepted at Sparendam during a road traffic exercise. And the laptop was found in the company of former policemen and Roger Shahid Khan. And when the international media started to bring pressure on the Jagdeo administration, as it was then, Jagdeo started to deny that they know Roger Khan.
Mm-hmm.
They said that they don't know the man. And whereas the evidence and the facts would have shown Roger Khan's entering and exiting the office of the president and his close association with the ministers of the government, and as I just mentioned, the infamous spy equipment that was intercepted after using the minister's letterhead. So you will see in very not so distant future that the PPP and Jagdeo will start to distance themselves from Sue, and just relegate him to just be, oh, he was just a tenant renting one of Jagdeo's places or whatever the case be. But the damning revelations coming out from the media person, they wouldn't speak to that. They will just say that it's allegation. But I'll just give it a few, and I know the same international media will come with a what you will call a second lick and
Mm.
drop the bombshell in a very short time.
Yeah, a follow up, a follow up interview. I noticed that in that excerpt, Jagdeo continued to maintain that his accounts are cleared, his accounts are clear. So, it does
Yes,
beg the question
yes.
really, how many accounts does this man really have overseas? And how many does a
Mhm.
person need really? I heard the the leader of the PNCR at his press conference. He just recommended that Jagdeo should make the contents of his accounts known to the world since he is so clean. Um,
Mhm.
I think that that is a very useful recommendation, and
Mhm.
so you have to to take the thing as a whole, and to see really and truly just how corrupt we are in these parts. I listened to the earlier parts of the interview, Chris, and if you heard Jagdeo wax eloquent about our framework for indigenous people and land titling, and he touched on a wide range of issues. And it occurred to me that Jagdeo has mastered the art of presenting one picture to the international community and doing something completely and totally different here at home. You would be
Mhm.
shocked as to how he spoke about their treatment of the indigenous peoples, etc. But we are on the ground. I was in Region 9 recently, and the folks complained that they were being given hampers, and all of the items in the hampers, the food hamper, the items, they were all expired goods. And so
Yes.
the people were like, MP, we are human beings too. Like, why would you
Mhm.
come and give us expired goods? So, to listen to Jagdeo wax on about all of their achievements, etc., really, really does um, betray what they're doing at home here, Chris. And we keep saying this all the time. They are breaking
Yeah.
down the guardrails of democracy. You know, they're
Yeah.
refusing to appoint those judicial commission, the constitutional commissions. They haven't appointed the Judicial Service Commission, the Public Service Commission. None of these commissions have been constituted 2 years into their tenure. So
Yeah.
what is he really
Yeah.
talking about? You know, because I don't know.
No, no, but listen, you said it. You said it best. Um, we've always saw and heard the Jagdeo and the PPP always painting this rosy picture to the international community. That listen, next to paradise there is Guyana, and they'll paint that picture. And only when journalists like those from the one that interviewed Jagdeo comes on the ground and they get an opportunity to experience firsthand the reality. I mean, we've often said that in life and politics, there's perception and there is reality. And what those journalists has uncovered is the reality of Guyana. Anything you want to do in this country under the PPP's administration, mind you, is that you can do it through bribery, and you are not bound by the person's position. The person could be a minister of the government, and there has been allegations of the current PPP ministers of government who have been taking bribes in order to facilitate people getting contracts. And of course, those said ministers get kickbacks. And of course, those ministers would have learned from the best. They learned from their seniors. It was not. It was even worse on the Jagdeo's administration. I mean, when you talk about the guardrails being broken down, those guardrails under the PPP's administration, successive
Mm-hmm.
PPP
Mm-hmm.
administration, have been completely removed. The rule of law, no one obeys by rule of law in Guyana under the PPP. There are different rules for everyone. I mean, I'll give you a simple example. The
Mm-hmm.
laws of this country speaks about vehicle and carrying siren and lights. Simple example, only emergency vehicles have that authority. We have seen throughout all of the regions in this country that these bigwigs, PPP acolytes and
Yes.
activists,
Yes.
rolling around in every vehicle with sirens and lights. And these vehicles have been reported to. And the Ghana police force have been told not to take action. Persons have video recorded them in action and presented this as evidence to the police. No action is being taken as it relates to that. And that's just one simple example. And as I said before, is that whereas in these contracts, ministers, for example, the budget that has just passed,
Mm-hmm.
with well over $500 billion, they are contractors who already know that they're going to get this contract and the amount. And they are just waiting for the conclusion of the consideration of these estimates and the passage of the budget so that they can access monies. That is how corrupt this country is.
And
This 2022 budget, the allocations, the contractors out there, and people already know how much from it they are getting, and the ministers of the government knows how much kickbacks they're getting. So
absolutely.
the yeah, go ahead,
No,
Manzo.
I was making the point, Chris, that this is knowledge on the ground. I mean, we out here, we out here in these
Mhm.
streets talking to the people, so we know what's going on. So they're not fooling anybody. For those of you who are joining us now, this is the Below the Belt podcast. This is Amanza Walton this year, and I'm standing in for Mr. Sherrod Duncan. Um, who we're giving some much needed rest today. My guest is none other than the Honorable Christopher Jones, the opposition chief whip, and we are discussing this vice interview because we want to know who the hell is Sue. Well, what we know now is that he's Jagdeo friend, and we suspect former friend and former tenant. Um, because that was some startling revelations that were made there. Chris, one of the things that we can't help but observe is that they've contracted our time to even consider these estimates. Yesterday, Gail Teixeira had a $35 million phone bill on the phone charges, and
Mhm.
couldn't give a proper account to the people of Guyana as to what it was that they were doing with $35 million, from 5 million the year before to now $35 million. And we were
Mhm.
told all manner and sorts of things except the truth. And then we had a $24 million salary allocation for Charles Ramsden Sr. You remember that?
Yes. Yep. Yep.
And so
Yep.
these are the things
And
that we are
yeah,
uncovering.
exactly. And just to strike again on the guardrails of democracy, that, as I said, hasn't they're not being broken down; that they have been completely removed. In the consideration of the estimates yesterday, again, you had an allocation that was made for the office of the leader of the opposition, which is a constitutional office of $27.5 million. Whereas the request of the office of the leader of the opposition was made for some $87 million, and it was slashed all the way to 27. Meanwhile, you have the office of the first lady. which is not a constitutional office,
Mm-hmm.
which is not an elected official's office, receiving $50 million. Now, we have no problem for the project that the First Lady's office is going to engage, which is for, to provide sanitary naps and so forth for our young girls and women and so forth. We have no problem with that. But it's just to draw the illustration to you that whereas you have a constitutional office, such as the leader of the opposition, having its budget drastically reduced from 87 billion as requested to 27 million dollars, and meanwhile the office of the first lady receiving 50 million dollars just for one project, and it is not a constitutional office, and the office holder is not an elected official. That's just to give you representation. The office of the leader of the opposition is to provide representation to all and sundry across the length and breadth of this country. $27 million will be exhausted in about a month and a half if the office of the leader of the opposition attempts to go into those far flung regions so that you could give representation to the people there. And that is just to bring you back to the point or drive the point home that this as well are all clear indicators of the People's Progressive Party civic trying to stymie the work of the opposition, which in itself limits democracy and the rights of people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a shame. I'm sitting here thinking, what guardrails, what democracy? It is
Nothing.
just incomprehensible to me and inconceivable the extent to which this government will go to silence the parliamentary opposition. I'm looking at the comments here, Chris, and I'm seeing the people want Sue in the ring. Chris, I don't know if you get a hookup, but if you get a hookup, ask Mr. Singh to roll through. We waiting for him in the ring because Guyanese need to know. Inquiring minds want to know.
Want to
We
know?
need
I
to know
love
the
it.
details. We need to know who is Sue, how much money Sue collect, for what projects. We
Hmm.
want to know who contracted. We need to know this thing. This thing was so just rolled through and dropped a couple lines and so on. It will not work. Guyanese people need to
Exactly.
know where they're going with their money and so on and so forth, and what Jagdeo doing with the Guyanese people money. But coming back to this matter, Chris, this thing is serious business. We
Yep.
have children that are starving. We were looking at videos from the quarantine of
Hmm.
people who are complaining that they don't have food, they can't make ends meet, and you got people sitting down on millions and hundreds of millions of dollars just idling in bank accounts that can do so
Yep.
much for our people here. So we have to continue to expose these people for the wickedness that they're doing, and we want to be able to follow this story. We want to be able to
Hmm.
follow Vice. I see Rennie Paris is saying Shara Duncan needs to get Sue in the ring ASAP. We working on it. We working on it, Rennie. We can try. We can try to see. Shout out to Sue. Sue, if you're listening, we need you in the ring ASAP. Carl Fordyce said we need to protect Sue at all costs.
Mercy. Mercy.
But this is serious. I mean, all joke and fun aside, this is serious. This is
This
serious, and
is.
you have to understand what it takes for somebody to come out to say that against a sitting vice president of a nation. If
Hmm.
you understand how this thing works, you will understand how it is that and the type of research and the depth of research that had to be put into that few minutes clip that you looked at there. This is international journalism, and I recall that the you remember when we had the International Day Against Corruption. um there was a very telling statement by the American ambassador, uh
Yep.
Honorable Sarah Ann Lynch. And I want to say this, Chris. The PPP elite, they have this way of quoting Sarah Ann Lynch when it's convenient.
That's right.
August 2020, when they had a lot to say about democracy and whatever else, she was the best thing since sliced bread. Now that she has come out and she has made a hard hitting statement and requiring the government of Guyana to take a very strong position on anti corruption measures, cautioning US private sector interests to only do business with reputable interests here, they have a problem.
Yeah,
And so you
yeah,
see, we in Guyana, we have to understand that the fight against corruption is all of our business, because what it means is that you are losing money that could well be put into the system to provide a better quality of life for Guyanese. That is being siphoned off by a very greedy few. And so,
yeah,
really and truly, to prevent corruption in public life is really something that we should all be involved in. I think we will continue to absolutely follow this story. And we really want to see the PPPC administration put their money where their mouth is and to really support robust government initiatives to combat corruption. Um, I note that in her address, the ambassador specifically mentioned the Natural Resource Fund. And Chris, I think that is a wonderful segue for us to discuss the problems
yes.
that we have with this Natural Resource Fund bill.
Hmm.
One of the things that we have been saying is that this bill in its current format offers little to no transparency to the people of Guyana. Chris, you remember the president get on the airwaves and promise the people of Guyana all kind and sorts of transparency, and that Parliament would be uh, scrutinizing
Play.
this thing.
Yes.
What's the
Hmm.
first order of business? One, cut down the day and time for scrutiny.
Hmm.
And then two, they have not said to us in the National Assembly what monies will be provided for, what monies will be, what projects rather, will the NRF money be used to fund. So we don't know.
Exactly.
Gail get
Exactly.
$100 million the money and she can't tell we what she doing with it.
Hmm.
She can't tell me what she's doing with
You,
it. You
but,
understand?
but you
They
you
could
recall
provide
as well.
nothing.
Yeah, you had yesterday as well, Prime Minister, and our MPs were trying to get information from him as to if $5 billion allocated under one of his lines. And reference was made, well, is this not for the from the National Resource Fund? And if so, what is the program that these monies are going to be spent on? And he was blatant and he said plain and straight in the house that I am not going to give you any information as it relates to this fund and what his intentions are
I don't
in
e-
the National Assembly.
can
He's on record saying
I
that.
don't know
But
how
you
Mar
look,
gets so.
listen. I mean, Manzella, I'm so happy that this is an international podcast. So I'm pretty certain other journalists may be listening in, and I hope it moves them to come and conduct their own investigation. Don't take our word for it. Don't listen to the opposition MPs because the people will say, oh, well, the opposition is doing opposition. You come here and do your investigation for yourself. You've had all and sundry wrote the issue statements calling on the government not to proceed with the Natural Resource Fund bill to allow for consultation.
Right,
Nothing major, just consultation. We
right.
just want you. Here is the people saying that, listen, the Natural Resource Fund is all of our patrimony, all of us. It is not a PPP thing, it's not a PNC thing, it's not an APNO AFC thing. It is all of us. And therefore, we just want you to give us the opportunity to be consulted. Let us say to you what are some of our suggestions. At the end of that consultative process, if you don't take any of our suggestions on board, that is fine. But at least we are comforted that we had an opportunity to be consulted, to be part of the process.
You know,
The
Chris,
opposition in Parliament as well echo these sentiments. Before we started the discourse on this, I stood up as an opposition chief whip and reiterated those calls from civil society and
Yes.
organizations and so forth.
Yes.
We protested in the House to make way for this process. And this is where you saw the PPP literally put their heels in the mud and they were prepared to battle it out,
Yeah, and they dug,
including the Speaker of the National Assembly, who
absolutely.
should be impartial.
They dug their
Despite
heels
the
in,
House being most disruptive and loud, that you can't hear or conduct any process, the Speaker allowed it to go through because at that time he removed his Speaker cap and put on his political cap.
Well, I continue to maintain that the speaker continues to do our democracy a disservice. I have, stated very publicly, and you can discipline me and so on, and we get back in the house. But we are prepared to take them on. This is foolishness. They continue to erode democracy whilst preaching out of the side of their mouths. Like I said in my budget speech, show me where you spend your money, and I'll show you what you value. The PPP is about undermining our national institutions and replacing them with personalities. This is why Sue could have said that once the vice president is okay with it, it got to go through.
That's
Because
right.
that is
Yeah.
what you call governing by personality. You
Hmm.
understand? We
Even
keep
spoke about changing laws and amending laws
changing
to suit.
laws and amending laws.
Hmm.
The people of Guyana are literally being prostituted at the feet of these people. Can you imagine you changing laws to suit these things? I just believe that unless we as Guyanese wake up, we will become second class citizens in our own nation. It is already happening. We're already seeing it. And unless we take a very, very strong stand, we will be relegated to the menial jobs. We gotta clean the drains and do
Hmm.
security work and so on. Because people are coming in, and because they can pay and buy their way, they get access to the largesse of the state. And the people of Guyana who barn here, who navel stringberry here, have to eke out a living in the land of their birth. Chris, this is wrong. And the people of Guyana must stand up and say that this is wrong. We got to stop
Exactly.
being Facebook warriors, and we have to start making our voices heard. We can't call for we want revolution. You are the revolution. You
Hmm.
understand? When Martin
Yep.
Luther and them marched just for the right to vote, buddy, you know how much time they throw you in jail? You know
Exactly.
how much time they throw you in jail? You know how much time he get beat and all kind of story? Until eventually they took his life. But as he said, he had a dream and he saw what he was fighting for. And I think the people of Guyana have to, um, you know, uh, stand up and fight for the Guyana that they want to see. Guyana belongs to all of us, whether you came by the way of the Ganges or you came by the way of the Nile, however you came, the Bering Strait, however you reach here, this is our Guyana, a land of six people. And so we want to see her be the best that she can be. Chris, your parting
Yes, ma'am.
thoughts, because we're gonna start wrapping up the program time. We have to get back into the house to recommence considering the estimate.
I would want to say to your listeners, Lady Amanza, that in the coming hours, coming days, and coming weeks, we will see a slew of PPP propaganda trying to sway the public's perception based on the interview that we saw with Vice President Jagdeo. I would not be surprised if part of the PPP's arsery that they will come and say that it is a pro opposition media, that opposition members and activists overseas have spoken to this journalist and they send them to Guyana. They might even go as far as say that we paid for their travels and accommodation here in Guyana because the opposition has a plan and so
Mm.
forth. I wouldn't be surprised if we hear that very soon.
It wouldn't surprise me. Just like how we heard that the
And
transparency index is biased. you know. Uh
Exactly. Exactly.
yeah, it is. Listen,
But
this.
as we said earlier though, lady,
Uh-huh.
is that this is typical People's Progressive Party civic. This is not the
Right.
first bombshell that is being dropped about corruption that reeks to the highest level of the PPP's government. This is not the first, it's not the second, not the third. It is a continuation. And I remind your listeners that it was under the People's Progressive Party civic last administration that Guyana was named in many reports, including the country of itself being named a transshipment point for narcotics. It was
Absolutely.
under the PPP's administration that Guyana was blacklisted almost on everything. It was under the PPP's administration that Guyana was named one of the most corrupt countries in the Western speaking hemisphere. And the list goes on. The list goes on. And if your listeners are in tune and they keep reminding themselves that when the PPP came to office back in 2020, in August of 2020, you saw almost weeks or a month thereafter, you heard about large shipments of cocaine being intercepted. You saw many reports, including just about a week ago, with aircrafts being discovered on airstrips in Guyana with drugs inside, and the list goes on. They had the guns just recently discovered. Is that people who are involved in some level of corruption, people who are involved in the illicit trade, finds comfort in the People's Progressive Party civic. Because when you look for corruption, you find it in there. And that is why you see all of this resurgence of the guns, the drugs, and all of that emanating from Guyana, strange aircraft being discovered and so forth. Because people who are involved in those illicit trades finds comfort in a People's Progressive Party civic administration. And that's how Sue and Vice President are friends, and Sue is also his tenant.
Friends and landlord and tenant. Chris, I could not enumerate the list better. If
Hmm.
it's not one thing, it's another.
Correct.
If it's not them buys, it's them banners. I
Hmm.
don't know, um, you know, when we are going to begin to get serious. Joretta and I were on this morning on FYI, and we were talking about Guyanese people wanting to make the choice as to whether we were going to be a nation governed by laws or a nation governed by men. And, it's really a choice that we have to make, understanding that we were a young democracy, we were a young country, and we have some ways to go. And we are literally at a crossroad. We will determine whether Guyana will fall victim to the resource curse, or whether we will be a nation that looks like these European nations that have been able to build using their natural resource funds in a manner that built the country, that saw democracy flourishing and was inclusionary in their approach to governance. And so we, the people of Guyana, really do have a choice to make. Chris, I want to thank you so much for being here. I want to thank our viewers for listening. I see Glycis Mingo and Shondell Moses and Carl Fordyce. I saw somebody say they're waiting for the Calypso on Sue. I don't know if Mark, I don't know his last name, is listening. The one that did Annette Run with the Mace. He's usually very
Yeah.
quick to respond to these things. So we're looking for
Mark Ferdinand.
Mark 49. We're looking for Calypso and Sue and the Susu. So let's see what
Hmm.
happens with that. But Chris, thank you for coming through. I want to thank our viewers and to let them know that you can partner with us. Those who want to can WhatsApp at 627-6963, and you'll get the instructions on how you could do that via Cash App, PayPal, Zelle, MMG, MoneyGram, Western Union. And so if you WhatsApp that number, you'll get the instructions as to how you can partner with us for us to continue to bring this type of content and this type of information to you. Chris, I want to thank you again, and I will be joining you shortly in the dome of the National Assembly as we continue to examine those estimates and identify where they are hiding the money and the slush funds and so on. I see Brenda Braffett says a whole lot of pocketary and confusion powder. Brenda, you have not told a lie. And we will continue to expose. You know, we say that the role of the opposition is to oppose, expose, and depose. And so we will continue to do that. Alicia, we want to thank you for your kind words. She says, great show, Chris and Amanza. Excellent show. And so, my brother, I will be joining you soon. Thank you for coming through. And thank you for your always very interesting input. Thanks so much.
Most welcome, lady.
All right. So thank you guys. That's our program for today. Thank you for joining the podcast, and we'll see you tonight at 8 in the ring. Let's fight. You gotta join to know whether Sherrod gonna be coming back, whether he can take the whole day off, because Sherrod very particular with the show and so on. So I consider it an honor that he would, actually uh allow me to his microphone. And so we really want to thank you guys. Without you, none of this would be possible. And thanks again. Stay safe. That's our program time as we head back into the National Assembly. Stay blessed.